Good morning, YouTube. I wanted to take a property I just invested in, one investment deal, and show you the what I created by doing the deal, what I gave up to do it, and then thirdly, what options this creates that have value to me. Many times people just see what's created in the deal and what they give up for a deal. They do not see the options, and options have value, especially over the long term. So let me get right into this. All right, so here's a deal I covered in the last video. I bought a rental house, 6% return on capital after expenses that I project on the house. Negative cash flow, $292 a month. The cost of the money is 7.25% on what I borrowed. I checked on offers, recently. We didn't talk about that. So it directly created in the deal a 6% return on the overall price after expenses on the property. So 6% return is a good return. The payout on VIG is just less than 2%, and this one is 6%. So just comparing to an index fund, you get triple the return on this index fund. Now I do carry index funds that triple the return has a value definitely. And so I wanted to compare that for you between investments. Purchase price $225, value $254. There are pending fix-ups in it that eventually will come in, but let's say that happens in a year and a half, then really the capital aspect of that value will be coming from the rent itself. So $225 to $254 is the value created. What I gave up, a negative cash flow $292. Maintenance risk, so if something breaks on the house, beyond what I've accounted for, my normal expenses, and then I had to put a down payment on the property to get this. Now, these are the things people say, and so in actuality, I took a 6% return and borrowed at 7.25%, which doesn't make any sense. Now, on my side, I have some options going forward. So one option I have is I have a 7.25% interest loan. And so if cash flow comes out of the business or the job, and let's say it's $20,000 of cash that comes in, and I take that $20,000 and I put it into paying down this loan. This is a real $1,450 per year of return, which is 7.25%. What are the risks on it? Well, the risks are almost nothing because it's paying off debt to myself. I am then the debt holder of this, and it's based on this overall situation. Very, very low. So anytime I want, I can take cash flow, put it into this property, lose access to it until there's a refinance, and hold it at 7.25%. Now, to give you a comparison, the treasuries I was buying, which I would consider similar risk, were 4.3%. VIG was about 1.96% payout. And so 7.25% is great compared to a treasury. So you're talking about an investment where I created 3% additional profit. Now, what's the cash flow on it? There's no cash flow. It's going back, automatically invested, what can be an additional value because it'll pay down the loan faster. But 7.25% option. Every option has a value. Having this option now has a value to me. Over time, as the loan value gets paid down, as the loan principal gets paid off, as inflation occurs, and as the property value increases, it will give me an ability, if I want, the option to finance it out. Increased over time, the rents will go up over time as inflation affects to it and the market value increases on the house and things. And then the last thing I'll also add is that over time, I might be able to finance to a lower rate. Okay? So, let's say the interest rates go back down to 4%. Well, now I can take this 7.25%, finance it down to 4%, and now I'm up 3.25% on that loan. So all of these things have options, and they're all things you can do, and they're all just based on how you're managing and looking at the money on the situation. And believe me, I mean, $20K per year at 7.25 is $1,450 per year, which per month is an actual profit of $120 a month. Now, you make this move once, and let's say you do the refinancing move and create the same amount. Let's say you increase the value over here, and you refinance here. Now, pretty soon you do some of these moves, and not doing anything on the side of changing the house, you're now at $480. So these options have a real value in the situation. So 6% has a real value. And so that is the overall situation, and that's how I see this house. Now, sometimes a house is different. Sometimes there could be significantly more purchase price difference. Sometimes the internal rate of the return on the money might be higher than 6%. And sometimes what happens is this is what you figure, and then outside, if we just sit here and we slap my borders on, and we just say, okay, this is the box that we considered, and this is the investment. Maybe this box is just one investment, right? And so maybe you do it 4 times, and then maybe there's a whole nother layer of investments that sit essentially on top of this box. So essentially, having the 4 investments with 6% IRR maybe it allows you to create this new investment that previously wouldn't have been happening. In addition, you might have other things act on this investment, such as, and let's just put them over here, such as government created inflation. Okay, so did we count on 2020? The government created inflation by increasing the money supply? No. What happened? 100% increase on this whole box, right? Boom. Do we count on that? No. What does that do to your returns? Well, now we're at more like 12%. Well, 12% would be phenomenal investment. And this is just one house. So you start considering across the portfolio. And so now you got 4 things you're building on here. And you have another business that you're able to set on based on the options here, right? So maybe you have this refinance value, and you take that refinance value, and you create a lending business where you lend money out. Now I do this sometimes. I lend money sometimes. So what rate would you lend money out? Well, if your internal rate cost is 7.25%, and you've got to cover your risk, let's say you have an almost 0 risk loan, now you're at 9.25%. So what is this 9.25% loan create? Well, if you look down in the options section of what this loan creates, it might create value, it might create relationships, it might create a new thought process, it might give you knowledge of this money, and so you have to look at this deal independently and say, does this make sense? What goes into this? What comes out of this? What options does this create for me? When this occurs, and these things do occur often, you might get an amplifying effect here. Once you start adding these, then maybe you have 4 houses, maybe your property management cost goes down, maybe your ability to fix up easier, you have a plumber that you know now, things like that. And so this is kind of how you have to consider, I think, investments is, how does this build to this and this and this? Making sure that each step kind of makes sense, but you may not know how the relationships work between them. And so that's what I want to introduce you to, primarily just to understand this real estate deal and what options it creates and what those look like and what those give you in the future. And then also to understand, as you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, what situation does that create that now you can take advantage of that you couldn't have before? Possibly, maybe all these refinances come together, right? and boom, all of a sudden you're buying a Walgreens, right? If the cap rate makes sense, okay, and the internal rate of return is, 6% or whatever, and now you're in this a bigger game on what you do, and maybe it zooms out more, and you have two Walgreens, and so over time things kind of build in that way. You might continue like I have to purchase these houses to build this linearly across, but then you might build layers on top of that, from a standpoint of what investments you can do and how you do them and some things like that. I hope this was valuable for you. Like and subscribe down below if it was, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.